Sonic the Continuation 15 Prologue. Why be needlessly confusing by not calling it SCC Issue 15? The story starts out with us seeing an airship in the sky. Something smashes into it, Eggman calls out for a hedgehog, and then holds his chest and collapses. And the next day, Orbot and Cubot are activated for the first time. Like that's hard. Because they were meant to practice medicine, and Eggman had gotten himself in a huge fight earlier. Too bad this is apparently because of the events of a Ghost of the Future crossover blending into the main comic. It's common sense not to do that, because you can't expect all your readers to read the crossover. Then as he wonders if the hedgehog will win, he somehow electrifies himself or something. On day 4, with his condition stable, it turns out he's gonna be indisposed for a while. Indisposed is spelled wrong. And he's gonna be put in a giant egg. Oh, let me guess. This is gonna be a lame excuse to give him modern Eggman's design. Even though there's no actual in-universe reason that Robotnik would want to change his appearance to look less menacing by no longer having the black and red eyes visible. I can understand him healing himself, but he would have to intentionally choose to have his new body look different. So why would he do that if he's so arrogant? He would never think that he needed a new design. And that was dumb in early SCC too. Why in the world is this fan comic so completely obsessed with making things exactly like the games? Though I do prefer the modern Eggman design, it's so obviously not Fleetway to do this. If it was meant to happen, it would have happened in Sonic the Comic already. There's a reason SCC Online didn't do that to Eggman. Meanwhile, Orbot's talking to a receptionist robot that looks a bit like Cosmo, at least, but with black hair. It's kinda gutsy to have a brand new character. Orbot says that after the light died down, all he saw was a massive egg. So Eggman did that to himself. He's regenerating. And it turns out that Eggman always possessed the ability to change his entire body. The receptionist should explain that he modified himself to be like a cyborg so that now he can do this on his own. She at least explains that it's because he's a big mix of chaos energy weirdness because of how he was created. She says that he didn't come out naked last time, so if the writer knows this is a continuity error, why did he write it anyways? But he looks more muscular than usual. So is this the Boom Eggman design? That'd be slightly more impressive because it'd be an actual surprise. It makes sense for him to think of it as an improvement. And it'd be adding some originality to SC2. Meanwhile, we see a robot with wings look over the Gun base, as the commander is worried because Gun was humiliated last time. And he says that unless he can justify its existence, the president might cut their funding. Existence is spelled wrong. Good thing it was explained that he's paranoid, because I'd really question why he'd think the military being disbanded would ever be a possibility. I wonder if the robot with wings belongs to Chuck, as it gains unauthorized access to the Gun top secret files, and immediately the base is put on alert. It makes sense because Gun doesn't trust him after last time, and he's already used a remote drone to spy on them earlier. The system can't shut him out because the hacker is on site, and the commander wants the intruder found in the compound, and the Iron Gate program is engaged. It's hacked right through, and Grimer says that the only person on Mobius skilled enough to do that is Robotnik, as opposed to Chuck. Oh well. It was being so original earlier that I forgot that I cared about being an SC2 adaptation. This was certainly a more exciting way for Eggman to find out about the Ark. Orbot says that Eggman shouldn't be pushing himself so hard after he just recovered from an injury. Aw, that's sweet of him. And I like Eggman's new design. It's not completely ripping off modern Eggman, or Boom Eggman, so it doesn't end up taking me out of it as just being a game purist thing. It's still stripping Fleetway of its identity while mostly completely ignoring it. SCC Online did a much better job reusing Fleetway's world and characters. Well, this is just a Sonic in general comic pretending to be a Fleetway continuation, and it's stripping its identity bit by bit. Although I'm not sure why I should be intimidated by what Eggman's wearing. Eggman compliments the Ark and says he's proud to be human, and Orbot and Cubot wonder if he's really human after he hatched from an egg. Somehow he's offended, but not enough to punish them for having free will that Fleetway Robotnik would hate. He should explain that he thinks he needs them to have free will so that they can be good at being medical robots. Then he's surprised by a robot crow saying, "Nikki to Lardass, come in Lardass." He says, "That's the last time I'm letting you choose the code names." I guess he's surprisingly forgiving for Fleetway Robotnik because he doesn't punish her for this. I don't get it. Wouldn't she be programmed to be unable to betray him at least? I figured the whole reason he wanted badnikification in the first place was because he didn't like free will. So he turned a whole bunch of people into badniks every chance he got. This is doing the same thing Flynn did, where Robotnik grew out of wanting everyone to not have free will for no reason. She says she's found the vault. That's more interesting than Eggman himself looking for Project Shadow again. Eggman enters the password into the pod in front of him and charges up the machine with the emeralds they found. Why don't we know how he found it? That feels like a Diabolos Ex Machina. He only has it because it's an SC2 thing. Is it explained in Ghost of the Future? It shouldn't have been. It'd have different audiences. It's pretty dull that it's so similar to SC2 and now Shadow gets reawakened. I definitely prefer SCC Online because they actually tried. They actually exerted creativity. It takes advantage of the fact that it's not the games when they actually care enough to give Shadow a different origin. But at least Shadow looking slightly blue here explains why he thinks he's Sonic at first. But that's not gonna last. Oh good, it is being kinda new. Shadow asks how long he's been captive here. Less realistic compared to him not caring. He's furious that he was captured for 50 years and throws out a fireball. That's more realistic than the game where he didn't even react. Then he says that he can see it in his face that he's the rightful heir to his creator, Gerald Kintobor. So he bows and says that his power is his to command, and wants to show him the power of chaos control. I guess just manipulating him like an SC2. This will never be as cool as in SC2 when he first showed up, because just still images instead of having dramatic camera work and badass music. Then Knuckles says that now the Master Emerald has enough power to fly the floating island alone, and at least it can relate to Knuckles when he complains about this being a big change. He says that ever since Sonic came to his island, things have been changing, and makes him want to punch him. It did always slightly annoy me that it wasn't the Master Emerald that powered up his island, because it was clearly just doing it because the manual to Sonic 3 lied that he was the guardian of the Chaos Emeralds, and it was just different for the sake of being different, because the Master Emerald is literally just a big Chaos Emerald, so it's not that big of a difference, functionally. So now the Master Emerald is what powers the island, because it has Chaos powering it up, when that could have easily not happened. It's obvious that SCC never intended to have Perfect Chaos show up again. This is just another instance of clear game bias where something only happens to make things too much like the games, completely ignoring the fact that maybe an alternate continuity not being just like the games was supposed to be its appeal in the first place. It's pulling Ian Flynn on you where it's like making something like the games for wrapping up plot threads. Now I know what Ian Flynn would have done to Sonic the Comic. At least most of his issues are so well written. Knuckles talks to Tikal from the other side of a laptop screen as she's refreshingly in different clothes for a change. She's nearly done with her search for the emeralds, and the 5th was in Hilltop Zone. How did she know where to look? It's not explained that she has an emerald radar. Oh, but she has a natural one in SC2's multiplayer. But that was just because it was a video game multiplayer. This needs to be explained. And her radar was weaker than Knuckles' in that game. At least Hilltop Zone is still intact after the world merge, but that just makes it all the more annoying that Emerald Hill Zone wasn't intact enough. I really hope they move the workshop back to Emerald Hill Zone at some point. No, they're never gonna do that, because that would be making it like Fleetway. Knuckles says that soon all of the emeralds will be safe on the floating island, and Tikal says that that's why they're having it built in the past. Then it's explained that she doesn't want to go back to the past, and she broke the staff. She says that she doesn't want to end up like the other echidnas. It would have been nice if we had actually seen her fill Knuckles in on the details of his past. She's sympathetic, and so is Knuckles as he feels sorry for her. And then Shadow blasts her with a laser, and says that she collected the rest of the emeralds for him. He tells Knuckles to tell Sonic that if he wants to see Tikal again, he'll meet with him in Central City in 2 days' time at midnight. It's a shame that all Tikal is being used for is kidnapping bait. It's a shame because she was being proactive and useful by collecting the emeralds, and it all amounted to nothing. This Prologue to issue 15 had a lot of changes to try to make things more similar to SC2. Like how Archie was forcing a lot of changes on itself for the SC1 adaptation. I admire SCC Online for not doing this, because doing this would kind of compromise its integrity as a Fleetway continuation. SCC Online kept its original unique identity intact. The fact that Sega didn't force Sonic the Comics to make all these changes to be like the games is just proof that it wasn't meant to do this stuff. When I first read the issue where Shinazar merged with Mobius, I actually did assume that the SC1 adaptation would take place on Earth, but the fact that it didn't has to mean something. It's just that by making a bunch of changes just to make things permanently more like an adventure game, it's doing what Archie did. And that's something I'd only expect to be done if Sega forced a comic to do all of that, but a fan comic is no excuse. It seems like we're at the point where the only thing Fleetway about this that's left is it's going off its canon, and it has characters like Porker and Techno in it. Eggman was injured for some reason, but when he changes his body like last time, and comes out naked because continuity errors are fun, he doesn't look just like modern Eggman, even if he has the shades. So that's good. It's less obvious. And he uses a flying robot to hack into the gun base to find out about the Ark, and uses another female robot to get hold of Shadow. Which isn't proactive like getting all of that himself, but at least it's new. Solitary confinement is a punishment for a reason. Even people traveling in a group in Antarctica can suffer from isolation. So with that in mind, it makes sense that Eggman would make a female robot and have Orbot and Cubot around, just to stave off the loneliness. Because literally any human is vulnerable to that. And then Tikal gets kidnapped by Shadow, and all she did was collect the animals for him.